Amy Casala, Executive Director of Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail. In this short video, we'll introduce the engineering thought process for the Shoreline Trail. To do that, we have Matt Carter, Principal and Bridge Designer with Arup. They have been working in partnership with Scape on this design.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. I'd like to pick up where Kate Orff finished in her video about the concept design of the Shoreline Trail. And this short video will do a bit of a deeper dive into some of the constructability aspects which we've been working on. As a quick recap, we're talking about the 2-mile section of the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail between Cold Spring on the right-hand side of the screen and Breakneck Ridge on the left-hand side of the screen, including the new Breakneck Bridge and connector. The trail shown in white runs along the edge of the Hudson River, and apart from a brief meander through Little Stony Point, is tight up against the Metro North Railroad, which also runs along the river's edge on rock fill which was placed at the time the railroad was originally built. These images give a better overview of how close to the river's edge the railroad runs. It's challenging to build a trail in this location, but we're very excited about the opportunity to unlock riverside pedestrian access and link together Cold Spring, Little Stony Point, and Breakneck Ridge with a trail along the currently inaccessible water's edge in this majestic part of the Hudson Valley. So Arup was very pleased to be asked to join the design team to help understand and address these challenges. We are a multidisciplinary engineering firm with a focus on sustainable development, and we've been the driving force behind many innovative and very successful projects in New York and worldwide. Our brief was to work with Scape to get as much of the trail as possible on grade, and where a trail on structure is unavoidable, our aim is to design a robust and durable structure with as few piles as possible in the water, together with a practical plan for how it can be built without damage to the sensitive river environment. The challenges become more apparent looking closer at where the trail is going to be built. Metro North have active railroad tracks as shown on the left, and any structure has to be 25 foot clear from the tracks to provide enough space for rail operations. In many locations, this only leaves a very thin strip of land, which isn't wide enough for a trail, so we have to build a structure supported on piles. Wherever possible, we're avoiding placing piles in the river. This stretch of the Hudson River is tidal, and some of the piles end up being in the intertidal zone, below high water but above low water. This is a highly disturbed environment, and the intertidal zone is a rock boulder revetment with lower ecological value than the fully submerged areas of the riverbed which provide habitat and spawning grounds. In other locations, there's more width, and the team has been able to develop an on-grade solution for nearly half the trail. This image shows what that might look like. An 8-foot security fence will be needed between the trail and Metro North rail corridor, seen on the right of this slide. This will only be on the land side of the trail, and a planted buffer will screen the fence where space permits. On the side of the trail looking towards the river, left on this slide, no barrier will be needed. For sections where trail on structure is needed, we've been working hard, studying the ground conditions, logistical constraints, and the river environment to figure out how the structure might get built in this narrow strip of land between the railroad and the river. One option is to mobilize construction barges with cranes on them, but for the section between Dockside and Little Stony Point, seen here, barges aren't feasible because the water's too shallow and submerged aquatic vegetation has been documented. This leads us to a top-down construction method, with small-scale construction equipment working from the part of the trail which has already been built, incrementally moving forward span by span. Work will take place seasonally because piles can only be installed outside of fish breeding periods. At this concept design stage, we've ended up with 3 trail sections. From left to right, starting at Breakneck Point, the trail will be on structure, and we've assumed that it will be built by cranes working on barges, with a single pile at each support position. Generally, this pile will be in the middle of the structure, but if it can make a difference to getting piles out of the water, we can offset the pile, which is the cantilever option shown in the circle. The middle section of the trail is on grade, and the section of the trail south of Little Stony Point will also be on structure, but using the top-down construction method I mentioned earlier, which needs a pair of piles at each support position because of the weight of construction equipment. There are some sections of the trail, shown in blue here, where there just isn't enough space to keep the piles completely out of the water. But except for a very short section, only 150 foot long, we've managed to keep all of the piles above the low tide level. This image shows the transition between an at-grade section and an on-structure section and gives a good idea of how the two types of trail relate to each other. The trail on structure is typically about 4 to 5 feet above the level of the railroad tracks. We need to lift the trail a little bit when it's on structure to provide space beneath it for maintenance of both the structure itself and the rock revetment, which prevents erosion of the riverbank. On the right side, you can see the security fence I mentioned earlier. This elevates with the structure, which allows wildlife to access the water in these locations because then there isn't fencing on the ground. On the left-hand side, the trail has a normal height handrail, providing unobstructed views across the river. We've also been studying the materials that could be used on the trail. One of the big design choices will be the type of decking that's used on structures. In other parts of the project, glulam timbers are used, providing an organic look and feel. For the shoreline trail, the deck is much closer to the water, which exposes it to a more harsh environment. This means that precast concrete planks are also an option worth considering because of their greater durability and longer design life. The two options are being evaluated with an eye on life cycle costs and performance, as well as appearance. With that, I'll wrap things up for today. We're still at an early stage of design, and we're looking forward to further developing the engineering as design progresses to make sure that a durable and resilient trail is built with minimal impact to the sensitive river environment. Thank you.